Here is a fact that sounds too small to be true. Inside one octave, from any note up to the next version of that same note, there are only 12 possible distances. 12. That is the whole supply. Every leap in every melody, every gap inside every chord, every stretch your hand has ever made on a keyboard, is one of just 12 spaces, repeated again and again up and down the instrument. Learn those 12, and you have learned every gap that harmony will ever throw at you. A chord that sounds enormous and a chord that sounds simple are built from the same handful of spaces, only arranged differently. Nothing past this point is bigger than what you already have in front of you. So this is the part where the whole map clicks into place. In the first part of this series we learned the number of an interval, by counting letter names. In the second part we learned its quality, the exact size measured in semitones. Now we put all of that together. We will walk the full ladder, one rung at a time, name every single distance from the smallest clash to the open octave, look hard at the one interval that refuses to behave, find a shortcut that quietly cuts your work in half, and then teach your ear to recognize these sounds the way it already recognizes a familiar voice across a crowded room. Let us climb the ladder from the bottom. Start on C, our root, our home, and count every step in semitones, where a semitone is simply the move to the very next key, black or white. One semitone up is a minor second, the tightest, most dissonant clash there is, two keys jammed right against each other. Two semitones gives a major second, the ordinary step of a scale, the gap between most of the notes you sing. Three semitones is the minor third, dark and a little sad, the first real flavor of melancholy. For semitones, the major third, bright and open, the sound of cheerfulness itself. 5 semitones is the perfect fourth, solid and a touch hollow, strong but unfinished. Then 6, a special one, which we will come back to in a moment. 7 semitones is the perfect fifth, the most stable, ringing distance in all of music, the backbone of nearly every chord you know. 8 semitones is the minor sixth, aching and romantic. 9, the major sixth, warm and sweet and wide. 10, the minor seventh, restless and bluesy. 11, the major seventh, leaning hard toward home, almost touching the octave but not quite. And at 12, the octave, the same note again, the journey complete, back where we started but a full step higher. 13 names, 12 steps, 1 octave. That is the entire vocabulary of distance in Western music. Everything else is these same building blocks, stacked, spread, and repeated. Now back to the one we skipped. 6 semitones, sitting dead in the center of the octave, exactly halfway between the root and its fifth. This is the tritone, and it is the most restless sound in Western music. Listen to it. It does not belong to the bright major family or the dark minor family. It sits on its own, perfectly balanced and perfectly unsettled, refusing to resolve, always sounding like it needs to move somewhere, anywhere, just not where it is. That tension is exactly why it is so useful. Composers reach for the tritone whenever they want unease, suspense, or a sense that something is about to happen. Medieval musicians were so unnerved by it that they nicknamed it the devil in music, and tried to keep it out of their singing altogether. The maths behind the feeling is beautifully simple. Cut the octave perfectly in half, and this is the strange, hovering sound you land on, the one note that splits the distance exactly down the middle. Hold it for a second and you can feel it pulling at you, begging to slide a semitone in either direction and finally come to rest. There is a shortcut that makes the whole map twice as small. Take any interval, then flip it. Here is what flipping means. You move the bottom note up an octave, so it lands above the note that used to be on top. Same 2 letters, but now stacked the other way around. The result is called the interval's inversion, and it follows a pattern so neat you will never forget it. A third, turned over, becomes a sixth. A fifth flips into a fourth. A second becomes a seventh. Look at those pairs. 3 and 6. 5 and 4. 2 and 7. In every single case, the two numbers always add up to 9. That is the rule of 9, and it means you only ever have to learn half of the intervals, because each one instantly hands you its partner. There is a second half to the rule, and it is just as tidy. The quality flips too. Major becomes minor, and minor becomes major. So a bright interval inverts into a darker one, and the other way around. But the perfect intervals stay perfect when you turn them over, which is one more reason that whole family earns its name. Let us prove it on the keyboard. A major third inverts to a minor sixth, bright flips to dark, 3 flips to 6. And a perfect fifth inverts to a perfect fourth, stable stays stable, 5 flips to 4. One rule, and half the work disappears. Knowing the names is one thing. Hearing them instantly, the moment they sound, is another thing entirely, and that is the skill that actually makes music. Here is the trick the pros use, and it costs you nothing. Glue each interval to a song you already know by heart, so that hearing the interval and remembering the song become the same reflex. Start on the perfect fifth, those first 2 notes of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, the jump from twink to the second twinkle. Once you really hear that leap, you own the fifth forever. The perfect fourth opens Here Comes the Bride, that famous bridal march everyone recognizes. The major third is the cheerful jump that begins when the saints go marching in, oh when the saints. And our restless friend, the tritone, lives in those first 2 notes of the Simpsons theme, the slide on the word Simpsons. That uneasy leap is the sound of the devil in music itself, hiding in plain sight on primetime television. Pick a song for every interval, write your own list, the cheesier and more personal the better. Then hum your song whenever you are unsure, and within a few weeks your ear stops guessing and starts naming. This is the difference between knowing about music and actually hearing it. So look at how far you have come across these 3 parts. First, the number, counted by letter names, the rough size of the gap, telling you a third from a fifth at a glance. Then the quality, measured exactly in semitones, the difference between bright and dark, major and minor, perfect and altered, the fine detail inside that rough size. And now, the full picture, every one of the 12 distances inside the octave named and understood, inversions that halve the work through the rule of 9, and an ear that recognizes each sound on sight using the songs you have tied to them. Put those 3 things together and you can hear 2 notes, name the interval between them, and know exactly how it will behave. Intervals are not a topic you study once and quietly file away. They are the grammar underneath all of it, the spacing inside every scale, every chord, every melody you will ever love. A scale is just a chosen sequence of intervals. A chord is just intervals stacked at the same time. A melody is a path that walks from one interval to the next. Master these, and the rest of music theory stops being a list of rules to memorize, and turns into something you can simply hear. And from here, the road forward is obvious. Next, we take these building blocks and stack them, 3 notes at a time, into chords.